This is so much better, it's almost called a power tool. Hey y'all, I'm James Wright, and welcome back to my shop. Now, I recently built this lathe, and if you want to see those videos, I'll leave a link to them down below. And I'm really loving it. I've been enjoying playing with it and just kind of getting to know with it and spending a lot of time just running the treadle. The one problem I'm running is the treadle on this. The board was supposed to be a little bit longer, which would give me a longer pull and more movement to the string. And number two, the stick just isn't all that good. Now, when I was outside, the base of this locked into the ground and the thing moved fairly well and didn't move around too much. And that was great. But then I bring it back here to the shop, and on the concrete and with the dust, this slides all over the place, and it's really hard to keep it in the same spot. And so I really didn't much like that. You know, I thought I would be okay with it and it would work well for right now, but really I need to adjust it for the first thing here. There's going to be a lot of other additions and other things I'm going to make in the future, but let's get this treadle up and running and make it something a little bit more functional. Let's dive in.
So let's begin this project with one of my all-time favorite woods, box elder. This is actually a really nice wood for hand tool woodworking. It planes beautifully, it's nice and smooth, just gives really good curls and a lot of fun. I have two of these sticks that I picked up from Matt Cremona a while ago, and I figured they'd be absolutely perfect for this use. Lightweight, but fairly stiff and strong, and will work fairly well. The next thing I need to do is cross them so that I have one board that continues all the way up to connect to the cord, and the other board just widens the bottom area. And I'm going to be putting these slats on here to give it a little bit broader spot for my feet to step on. So I'm kind of playing with how it goes out and what angle I want that to be at. Once I have that chosen, then I can mark in where these two boards will cross so that I can cut out the halving joint or the half lap joint that these can then fit into each other. The shorter of the two that will dead end at the longer stick just needs to be cut at an angle, and then I'll come back to it a little bit later and cut its side of the joint. But to cut the angle, I just chalk it up straight so that I can cut vertically. Then for the other board where I need to cut out a half lap mortise, basically, I need to cut down on either side of the cheeks for it. And to do this, I just start at one end and slowly work to the other end, and then follow the line. Just putting in a knife wall allows the saw to very easily follow along that angle, and it works fairly quickly. I don't use a fence, don't really need to. Just cut down to length. If I need to remove a little bit from the middle, I might use the very toe of the saw just to kind of scratch it out. Then once I've cut down both of the cheeks, I can come in and remove all of the waste in between. I'll start with the chisel, and I'll stay a good ways away from the line. I'll usually go about a third of the way down to a half of the way down and chop out a good chunk of material. And then I'll come down another halfway down and chunk out more material, and I'll keep going until I remove most of the waste. Then I'll flip it around and do the same thing on the other side. Here you can see how I'm coming down a little bit shy of halfway and chopping in. I'm not really levering out a lot of material. I'll let it break out as it breaks out, just making sure that the break doesn't dive down and go into the what I want to save. Then I'll come back through and cut in about halfway again and remove more material. Then just continue the process until I get down close to the line, and occasionally pare out with the chisel and flatten it out. Here you can see how I'll reach a little bit farther back in and just pare out. Then I'll come in with a router plane, which I put a larger base on. I have a video on this as well when I talk about how to use a router plane. And that allows me to clean out the bottom and give a really nice flat surface that I can glue against. Now for the other side of the joint, I'm going to use my large tenon saw to cut down along the cheek, or I guess the shoulder of this one, depending upon how you look at it. And then I can flip it around and cut from the other side. And so I'm just following the line that I can see, basically creating a curve down either side, and then I'll cut it flush all the way down. This will give me a line that I can then cut to from the other angle. And then this cut is basically identical to the two that I made on the first stick. I'll just follow that knife wall and then cut until it pops loose. And voila, I have a joint ready to fit together. After that is cut out and I did a little bit of final prep, then I want to put a dowel through this, a 1/2 inch dowel right through the middle of this. I only need one because the bottom boards will be connected with the rails that go across. And so I'll drill that out, put in the dowel, and then cut it off flush. I will glue this joint. I want this one to be permanent, and I can come back once it is all dried, smooth it out with a plane, and make sure that the joint feels good, and then make sure that the two boards actually match up in the flush. And I can do that all the way around the joint on all 3 sides that you can get to. Once that's done, then we can cut on the top where the rope needs to connect, and I'll cut out a V-groove with a saw, and then I'll come back in and file it. And there'll be 3 of these V-grooves, 2 on the sides and 1 on the top. The foot area, the treadle area, whatever you call it. I don't know. There's probably some technical term for it. I don't know what it is. But I want to make that a little broader so that my foot will rest on it nicely and I can make contact with it very quickly. Just screwing down these slats allow me to be able to put my foot just about anywhere I want on it. This is kind of temporary because I don't know if I like these slats. Do I want something different? And so just screwing them down without any glue makes that a little bit more changeable in the future. Next thing I want to do is attach this to a bottom plate. I have this scrap piece of plywood that makes a large plate so I can stand on it and keep the treadle from moving around. And then I will drive in screws through a strip that's holding the leather down. The leather then acts as the hinge and allows it a little bit of freedom and movement around without being completely solid like a hinge. And I think I like that. It works fairly well. I have a few other little modifications I want to make to it, but of course there will always be modifications I want to make to it. Here you can see how one foot holds the whole thing in place and the other foot then drives it. And it works really well.
So there you have it. A better treadle. Now, most of this design comes from Shannon Rogers over at the Hand Tool School, and I really like it. A couple things I'm probably going to do to it. I didn't think I would need to put non-skid pads on it because the lathe moves around, but I'm probably going to put non-skid pads on it. I'm also thinking about putting a spar between the legs of the lathe itself so that it connects to that rather than a pad here. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do there, but now it's completely functional and a rather efficient lathe. So I'm looking forward to building on this. I'm going to be falling down the rabbit hole that is a lathe here very soon, and so quite a few of the videos coming out will probably have more to do with this now that it is, well, functional. So yes, I hope you like this. I would love to hear your ideas. What would you like to see done on this? I'm probably going to do a video on different types of tools, how to use them, making a pin on here, and then a bunch of other little things. So yeah, we'll fall down this rabbit hole together. So I hope you like this. I do want to say thank you to the patrons on Patreon. If you would like to find out more about that or help out with Patreon, you can do that right down here. Also, if you'd like to subscribe and see some behind the scenes footage, you can do that as well. That's about it for today. And until next time, have a wonderful day.